Welcome to the Sharp Mind Show, episode 19. I'm Nate, the FitfutureMD, your host. Make sure you shop at Ensorsale.com and pick you up a cool, inspirational t-shirt today. All right, so we're going in hot. Hot means up 22% on the day, right? We got Intel. Intel is up 22% after getting a $5 billion investment from NVIDIA, right? Remember, I love value investing, right? Intel has been down for a while, right? So how far down was it? Right? So we, have a 5 year, so we look at the 5 year chart, right? 5 year chart's got NVIDIA sitting at $64 in 2021, and we went all the way down to $19.14 this year, right? So from $19 and now we're up to $30.57, right? Is that better than your 10% return in the stock market? Yes, it is, right? Now, the question is, so where are we sitting at now, right? So it's popped 22%. We're sitting at $30. Is this going to keep riding to $40? Is it keep riding to $50? That kind of thing, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to make levels to this thing, right? So you have this chart where it went down, and you can see where levels where it bounced off the chart, that kind of thing. And so we draw those lines on the chart, and we say each time it hits one of these levels, we sell a portion of this stock, right? So usually I do a quarter of the stock on each level, right? So basically I want to lock in. There's two ways you can do it. You can do it a quarter, or you can lock in your initial investment and let the winnings ride, right? So I've done it both ways, where you go a quarter each time it goes up to a level. I prefer the quarter method, over that. But the selling your original investment is obviously a smart move as well, right? So say, you bought it at $20, right? So that's 5 shares per $100. So you got 1,000 shares, right? So you got 50 shares, or $1,000 at 50 shares, right? So it pops to 30. You take out your original $1,000, right? So now instead of it being worth 1,000, it's worth, $500 more than that. So $1,500, right? And so you sell the $1,000 and keep the 500 rolling, right? And then you repeat the process. So you go find another stock to put the $1,000 in. So what is this called? This is called the velocity of money. This is called the velocity of money, right? Where you can go up, take your money back out, and use it again. It's how fast can you do that over and over and over again. And so this is, long-term value investing. It's not day trading. It's not swing trading. You're going to be holding that other position forever, right? Or until the stock is no longer a viable company. Like it's, so I've had some of these stocks go all the way back down to zero, right? So keep that in mind. Like I said, the high of Intel was like in the $50-$60 range. So you're sitting about halfway up. So you're still, halfway down. Intel really comes back and starts being a good chip maker again. It can be back up to $50-$60 easy. Like I said, we did get this big bump at 22%. So that's wonderful. And sit back and get paid, baby. Like, this is the exciting part, right? You found something, and it worked, right? So keep that in mind. Let me know what you guys think of Intel down below. How would you go about either selling off this stock or getting your original investment out, or would you just hold and keep holding forever? How would you do it? Let me know in the comments below, right? Now, so today in life coaching, we have Aaron. Today in life coaching, we have Aaron. Aaron's 40 years old, and he's been thinking about investing for 15 years, right? He's always waiting on that perfect time to invest, right? He's sitting on $80,000 in cash, and he just, for whatever reason, can't put the money in the market, right? So here's what I would say to Aaron, right? Or anybody that's worried about their money. Number one, they are printing money every day, right? Trillions of dollars a year, right? The U.S. deficit is going up trillions of dollars a year. The only thing that counteracts your money being worth less than what it is today is to buy an asset, buy things that hold value, right? So, someone like Aaron is willing to go pay $500 or $600 a month for a car, but is not willing to put $500 or $600 a month into the market, right? Into actually buying assets, buying something that makes you money without you having to work, something that has intrinsic value like gold, silver, Bitcoin, or whatever. Buying businesses that print money like AT&T and Caterpillar and Apple and Amazon, so you basically have an illusion of safety with this $80,000. This $80,000, so if you've been saving this for 15 years, so say 15 years ago you had $20,000. That $20,000 is 90% less, probably. I don't know the exact math, but it's a lot less. Just say it's even half, so it's only worth $10,000, right? This is why I also say not to pay off your mortgage over 30 years, early, because the money you're going to be paying at the 30-year mark is not the same amount of money as it is today. Like the value today is much higher than it would be 30 years from now, right? And what's crazy is that, not to go into housing, but, our house is already worth, because of inflation, our house is already worth what it would have been if we paid it off in 30 years, right? So, keep that in mind. Crazy to think about, but I didn't mean to get into real estate, but so what we're going to do here for Aaron is we're going to get him started on the first steps, right? So obviously we're going to get him on the budget. We're going to make sure all the bills are paid. We're going to make sure we have our emergency fund. Like I say, I do a really big emergency fund, just peace of mind for me, because of COVID. But I want to have at least a year's salary in the bank, so that could be, for Aaron, that's 60 grand, right? So he's got 20K to invest, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take that 20K and we're going to divide it by 12, and we're going to invest that amount into the market every month, right? Whether the market's up, whether the market's down, we're going to have him safely invest the money because he's already risk averse, right? So he's not going to be looking at individual stocks, even though that's what I do. If he wants to learn individual stocks, I'm happy to teach it to him. But he's obviously risk averse. We want to go into the most risk averse thing we can, which is high dividend index funds, or you go growth stock mutual funds, that kind of thing. But obviously index funds because of the fees. And that would be my first step. We set him up a brokerage account. and we get him to start investing that $20K that's left over after emergency fund. We get him to invest, the way, slowly over time, right? You're not going to get him. You're not going to. So a lot of people come up to me, right? They'll be like, okay, I got $100,000 to invest. What should I invest it in? And I tell them, like, have you ever invested before? If you've never invested before, like, you don't want to think that you're going to be right on your first try, right? Like, you want to go through the process of finding the stocks, go through the process of, okay, this is what I'm going to invest in, do the process and learn over time, right? It's not going to be, so I think of it like in T-ball, right? There's very few kids that go up to the tee on the first try and even hold the bat correctly, let alone hit the ball, let alone hit a home run, right? So for your first try, even if you have a mentor, you're still not going to be like, okay, I'm going all in on this stock, right? And, but there are people that want to do that, and that's fine, but that's not the way I would teach it. I'm going to teach it because I want you to get rich 100% for sure, right? Like I say, I just talked about value investing. I love value investing. It doesn't mean everybody's going to love value investing, right? But to keep that in mind, this is what I would do for Aaron. Let me know what you guys would do for Aaron. He's been scared to invest for 15 years. How are we going to get him to start investing? How are we going to get to see that, his money is not safe, just put it in a savings account, put it with a bank, or even in the backyard? Let me know what you guys think. All right, so this episode is brought to you by London and the Goo Goo Goo, which is my wife's book. If you have nieces, nephews, or children of your own, make sure you check out my wife's children's book, London and the Goo Goo Goo. Available on Amazon, also available in the link in the description if you are interested. All right, so I'm going to move on to the quote of the day. All right. And this one's easy for me because this is basically how I live my life, right? It's not hard to make decisions in life when you know what your values are. It's not hard to make decisions in life when you know what your values are, right? So this quote kind of needs self-reflection, right? Because you have to figure out what values and what things do you stand for, right? So many people out there don't know what their actual values are, and then they'll see a topic or they'll see something, they'll just be offended, and they don't even know why they're offended, and or stuff like that. They don't know what their true value is, what their true values are. And they don't know what their true values are, right? What are their core characteristics, right? So you do that with self-reflection. You do that with, thinking about what those values. You go through the values one by one. So if you could just go through, type in Google list of core values and go through each one and see like which ones do you agree with, which ones do you not, and have that list. And once you have that list, you can say, okay, it's a lot easier to make decisions, right? So for me, talking about Ensorsale, my brand, right? If someone comes up to, orders a t-shirt, says, hey, this was this was that, I say, no problem, here's your money back, and I'm going to send you another t-shirt that's correct, right? That's our value, right? Because quality is everything to me, right? I know my t-shirt is quality. It's the best quality that you can have, right, in t-shirt. Now, could I do all this other stuff and like have this thin material that everybody's been loving, or I would say there's a lot of trends that happen in fashion, right? And the simple fact is it's crappy products, but my value is not crappy products. My values for Ensorsale are we're going to have the highest quality product, right? So it's very easy to make a decision on things when it's like that, right? So if you get something, that's why we offer 90-day returns, not 30-day returns. right? Like say, if it, you wash it 6 or 8 or 10 times and it doesn't hold up, guess what? Send it back, and I'll send you another one, and we'll go another 90 days, right? So values are everything, especially in business, right? And customers are worth more over a lifetime than that one shirt, right? So keep that in mind. Let me know in the description below what values that you like that make it easier for you to make decisions, right? All right, so I'm going to move on to my last story of the day. I'm not really sure what my comments are going to be on it, but Gen Z, so people that are 18 to 28, are going to church more than the other generations are. But that's millennials, Gen X, and boomers, right? So the question is, why is Gen Z going to church more? And what's keeping millennials, Gen Xers, and boomers from going to church, right? So the real question here is, I really don't know what these answers are. So number one, help me out. Let me know what you guys think. Why is Gen Z going to church more? But some people would say that the reason people are going to church more is because things are being accepted in the church that normally wouldn't have been accepted, right? Let's say it makes sense for boomers and elders not necessarily to be making it to church, obviously, because they're the elderly, right? So unless somebody comes and picks them up and brings them to church, they're not really going to church anymore. They are having church services in the nursing home or whatever. But Gen X and millennials are two of the lowest, and so the question is, what really turned them off to church? Gen Z is obviously going to be like, millennials and Gen Z are some of the highest educated, people ever, right? So if you blamed education, like, okay, you got educated in science and science took you away from your religion, you could blame that, but then, they're the most educated, so why are they going to church more? So this is what I figured this out very young as a chemist, right? Is that science basically only proves what God has done, right? Not to make this a religious show today, but every time you look into science, you're basically trying to figure out what God has done, right? And visually describe what is happening, right? That's like some of the hardest part of science. It's like, what happened? How do you describe what happened? We got to make a terminology so that we're all on the same page of what's happening, that kind of thing, right? But basically, if everybody really looks into science, you eventually come to the conclusion that there was an intelligent designer here, and they set this motion in process, right? Or they set this process in motion, right? So why do I think the mostly educated millennials and Gen Z are going to church more than the Gen Xers and the boomers? One reason is because, they've got science, and science is basically proving the existence of God. And then number two is that churches have become more accepting of, all kinds of things, whether it be tattoos, as an example, that kind of thing. But let me know in the description, guys, why you think Gen Z is going to church more than the other generations. I'm Nate. I'm the FitfutureMD. and I'm a life coach. So if you're looking to turn your life around, if you're looking to level up your life, if you're looking to learn how to invest, if you're looking to clean up your budget, and if you're looking to purchase real estate, then sign up for life coaching, right? It's $2,000 for the year. Most life coaches charge $150 an hour. You see them for 3 or 4 hours, and then you never see them again. You never hear from them again. That's not how it works for me, right? You get to talk to me and be with me once a week for a year, right? And so just add that math up, $150 an hour, a couple hours a week for a year, you're talking about hundreds of hours, so you're getting it for a lot cheaper than you would get it from a normal life coach, right? And the reason is because I actually want you to be successful. And I know that within that year, if I don't make you better, I'll just give you your money back, right? Because that's part of my values, right, that we talked about earlier. So keep that in mind. Sign up for life coaching. Shop at Ensorsale.com. Pick up a cool inspirational t-shirt. Get London in the Goo if you're interested, and we'll see you in the next week's.